What is our fourth main topic today?
John, our fourth main topic comes to us from the Antagonistic Anonymous. Hey, crew. In an article by the Direct, Ant-Man 3 director Peyton Reed has explained how he's always felt that the previous Ant-Man films were palate cleansers after a gigantic event film like Avengers, and now wants Ant-Man 3 to be the Big Avengers level film. John, I've been noticing from interviews of both Feige and Peyton Reed that they have been teasing this film as central to MCU and being Avengers level. So it's got me thinking about what can happen in this film. Major repercussions for the MCU, or perhaps a fantastic family is brought to the universe. What do you make of these statements, John?
All right, Antagonistic Anonymous, thanks for sending that in. And yeah, listen, I am a big fan of the Ant-Man films. I particularly loved the first one. And the Ant-Man films to me have represented the gear changes. You know, I talk about this a lot. You have the law of diminishing returns. You can't have every single movie in your cinematic universe being save the universe, save the universe, save the universe. Universe is a peril again. The world's going to blow up. Like, you can't always go that. You got to bring it down, change gears. Every once in a while, you got to save the neighborhood community center. Every once in a while, you have to save the girl. Every once in a while, you got to save the guy. And Ant-Man was that to me. It was about a guy trying to save his family. And I love that. It was charming. It was fun. Ant-Man 2, I still really liked, not as much as the first one, but I had a very, very good time with it. So now we're heading into Ant-Man 3. And it's coming at a very interesting time in the history of the MCU, right? This transitioning into phase 5. Not a lot of people know what the overall story of the MCU is at and all that kind of stuff. But we got Kang. So what does that mean? Well, Peyton Reed is saying this is an Avengers kind of movie, not like one of the smaller ones. This comes to us from the folks over at Geek Tyrant who wrote this. In a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, director Peyton Reed talked about how he was ready to make a meaningful Marvel movie in the same vein as one of the Avengers movies. People felt like, oh, these are fun little palate cleansers after a gigantic Avengers movie, talking about the other Ant-Man movies. For this third one, I said, I don't want to be the palate cleanser anymore. I want to be the big Avengers movie. When I asked if Reed kicked in Marvel bosses Kevin Feige's door when he decided to make this declaration, Reed said, I did. I metaphorically kicked in Kevin Feige's door. And you know what? I don't think Peyton Reed is wrong. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that the Ant-Man movies, to me, were palate cleansers. I think having those in there is a part of what makes the MCU, or has made the MCU, really wonderful. Is that it mixes it up, they vary it up. In MMA terminology, they change levels. I love that. And in that degree, I think the Ant-Man films have been incredibly valuable to the MCU and really fun. But going into this one, I've kind of mentioned this before, but I'll say it again, and I believe this wholeheartedly. This Ant-Man movie is going to be absolutely pivotal to the MCU. Because, Rob, you and I have speculated this before, but I'll put this out there now. One of the big complaints about Phase 4, besides the fact that it's just not as good as any of the other phases in the MCU so far, is that a lot of people are like, listen, we went through all this Phase 4 and we don't even know what the general idea of the MCU is anymore. Like, we had a couple of interesting standalone movies, some not so good standalone things, one or two good MCU shows, couple not so good, whatever. What's the connection? What's going on? What are we building up to? Kevin Feige said a couple of months ago, it's all going to become clear soon. Well, I think soon is Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man becomes the film that defines for us what is phases 4, 5, what is leading up to Avengers, Secret Wars, what is the whole thing. I think it's all coming together in Ant-Man. I think all the questions will be answered as far as general setting and the direction we're going. I think we're going to get a lot of interesting insight, maybe even a change of perception about what has every movie in the MCU Phase 4 actually been. Whether it's a revelation of Ms. Marvel's bangles, or the Eternals themselves, or Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, or what's going on. I just feel like, and I couldn't tell you what it's going to be, but I think Ant-Man is going to be the film that, like, 3 or 4 years from now, we look back on and say, that's where things really got going, was this Ant-Man Quantumania movie. So I don't think you're wrong, Antagonistic Anonymous. I think this is going to be maybe the most significant MCU film since Endgame.
The holidays are officially upon us, and it's time to start celebrating. Do your thing and holiday your way with MeUndies. Because it's the most wonderful time of the year to try MeUndies, because they're currently offering a very merry deal. Get 20% off your first purchase with free standard shipping and free returns when you go to MeUndies.com/Campea. Guys, you know I've been wearing MeUndies for a while now because I used to be like everybody else. I would go to the big store, buy the biggest box of the most generic underwear, and I thought that was good enough. But ever since I started MeUndies and started wearing the most comfortable underwear I have ever worn in my life, I swear on this Christmas season, I will never go back. So get your holiday shopping finished early and start making time for yourself with the new MeUndies holiday collection. Their undies, long underwear, and sleepwear are made out of the softest, most supple fabric you've ever felt and are guaranteed to bring you comfort and joy to all of your loved ones. Shop their classic plaid prints for a traditional, picture-perfect style, or get festive with their adventurous limited edition sweater prints. Available in sizes extra small all the way through 4XL, MeUndies has what you need to make all of your favorite people smile this holiday season, all in one convenient place. So to get 20% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/Campea.
So anyway, Rob, we've been talking about this for a long time now. Ant-Man is getting close. We're close to it now. What kind of significance do you think, and Peyton Reed saying this is going to be my Avengers level movie?
Well, I mean, obviously, clearly from the trailers, looks like a different, very different movie from the first. And like you, I've loved the Ant-Man movies, and they're also basically light-hearted heist comedies. You know, there's a lot of humor in those movies.
Oh, I love them.
Ant-Man 1 ends on a girl's train track set in her bedroom. You know, that big battle, it was incredible. I mean, sometimes...
And Ant-Man 2 starts with a cushion for it and a cardboard box for it. I loved it.
Unbelievable. I love those movies. I love the cast. However, like you, I think that this movie has a lot of heavy lifting to do because it's going to be setting the stage for, I think this movie's going to be huge. And I think what's really telling is the trailers have been visually interesting, but there's been very little in terms of what the movie's about.
Oh, very little. We need another trailer.
Yeah, well, other than the people getting sucked into the quantum realm and Kang being in it, I love the fact we don't know anything about this movie. And it's kind of like the trailers for Infinity War and Endgame. I get a little feeling like it's interesting to look at, but we don't know jack all about what this movie's about. And I think they're going to keep it that way because I think there's a lot of revelations. I think there's a lot of surprises. I think there's a lot of stuff we haven't seen. I don't know if the Fantastic Four is going to be there, even though that's what I've been speculating for a long time. But I think this movie, and what's great about it is if you think about what comes after, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy. So this movie's going to leave us on some huge cliffhanger. I don't mean necessarily like dun, 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 but the ramifications are going to be huge. And then you jump to Guardians of the Galaxy, which is about them. It's not going to have much to do with this at all. Then the Marvels is going to pick up with this, but then we're going to be off to the races, whatever. And this thing is going to be, I think people are going to be surprised by this and we're going to be left breathless by it.
And we were just talking about this. It is, again, according to, the American ticket buying site Fandango, when they did their survey with fans, the number 3 most anticipated movie of the year right now for them. So that's interesting. Christian, Rob is mentioning Antagonistic, also mentioned it that maybe the Fantastic Family shows up here. I don't think they will. I think that would have meant they had to have been cast like a year and a half ago when they were shooting this. But could Fantastic Four pop up? And is this going to be a truly pivotal movie, or will it just be another next chapter? What do you think?
Well, as far as the question is, could they show up? I don't think that the cast themselves could show up. Could a mention, could something along those lines, the way that they mentioned like Doctor Strange earlier on in the MCU, and then, something like that. Sure, that's always possible. Do I think it'll be pivotal? Yes. And one of the major reasons as you talked about before, if you wanted to say that this was the year of, say, Paul Dano, right? Next year is the year of Jonathan Majors, with Creed and with this. I think he's already on his way to becoming a massive star. I think next year is where we just crown him the next big star because he's done it the right way.
Well, Devotion didn't do so well, but I do love him.
We're not. Devotion should have come out in about a year and a half from now,
yeah,
or 2 years from now, and then it would have done a lot better because people haven't seen him in these other 2 movies yet. He's not the star that he's going to be soon. He's a great talent, but he's not the star he's about to be. It's incredible. He just has that thing about him. But one of the major reasons that they need this movie to be pivotal is because you can't assume that everybody has watched Loki. You can't assume that everybody knows who Kang is or who this is yet. This is him establishing. You've got to make, if you're going to make him the next Thanos, you're going to make him the next big bad, you got to establish why he's the next big bad, and something big's got to happen. And in order to do that, so even there's a couple lines that he says that you've seen in footage, whether it's D23 or Comic-Con, that he says that's kind of sets that up, that this is going to be something, he's going to do something in a third movie in a franchise, in Ant-Man, something major is going to happen. The same way that in Guardians 3, something major is going to happen. I agree with both of you guys. I think Guardians 3 is more of more about them. It's going to close out that loop, but this is going to establish more so into what's our threat, because we don't have one yet. We just have a lot of things happening in Phase 4. There's no big threat yet. This is our threat.
I think that there's going to be cameos in this movie that we haven't even begun to conceive of, because Kang says, "I've killed you before." He talks about
Have I
killing
killed
the
you
Avengers.
before?
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that we see some of that happen. That we see maybe Avengers characters that are no longer with us get killed again.
In Ant-Man, you think that's going to happen?
Yes.
I'm just so
I
tired
think-
of doing that now,
I
because
wanna
we're
throw
always
something-
wrong.
I want to throw something to Christian here. So Rob has a theory that I think has a lot of merit.
Yeah.
Rob has a theory, and I want to know what you think about this and if we could see this come to fruition in Ant-Man. Rob's theory of Phase 4 so far, that, at CinemaCon, Kevin Feige called this the multiverse, what do you call it? The
Saga.
multiverse saga,
Yeah.
right?
Even had a hat on to that effect.
Rob's theory is that every movie we've seen in the MCU in Phase 4 has actually been in a different universe.
Yeah.
Like not just one different universe, but each individual film has been in a completely different universe from each other. And maybe in Ant-Man 3, with Kang being there, we see that revealed. What probability do you give that theory?
I like the theory, but it would be confusing to some people. I think also I'd say 10, 15%. That's possible. I think that if you look at it, not the entire universe, because everyone's talking about the Eternals at the end. It's like, where the hell's that big thing sticking out? Nobody's seen that big dude. Where is he? And then they did show in a newspaper article in She-Hulk for like a split second. So clearly that exists in that universe. So like, then they'd have to explain, well, that part of it. If all of Phase 4 is one different universe, maybe, but then they still have a lot of explaining to do overall. It's too tricky, I think, for general audiences. So I'm going to say pretty low.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? We're getting close, because what is it, Taylor? It's a February release date for Ant-Man, it's not? We got it coming up in February. It is upon us. How significant do you think, not how good or bad do you think the movie will be, but as far as its role in the MCU right now, do you think it's going to be a pretty pivotal role? Or do you think it'll be, more like the other Ant-Man films that were just really great, more self-contained stories? What do you think is going to happen here? Whatever your thoughts are, jump into the comment section below and leave your thoughts there.